Welcome, everyone, to Online Dispute Resolution Cyberweek 2024, put on by the National Center for Technology and Dispute Resolution. We're very glad you're joining us, either in person now, virtually, or eventually. Others will join us during the year as you tune in to watch this. My name is Leah Wing, and I'm the director of the National Center, and it is my pleasure to be not only part of this panel, but part of this exciting, wonderful, creative group of fellows, 50 fellows from around the world. It's actually an international organization. And I just want to point out that we're lucky that on this panel we'll begin with the founder and the father of online dispute resolution, Ethan Katsh, who joins us here today, and the former director, the director emeritus. And we have a rich and exciting week with people who are going to talk about how AI is getting integrated into the use of mediation, arbitration, courts, facilitation, its strengths, its exciting attributes, our concerns and the challenges regarding that. And we're also going to have a chance to take a look at what the next generation is thinking about incorporating technology and dispute resolution. So I encourage you to keep an eye out for the next generation and to help make room in our conversations throughout the week for all of their questions and contributions as well. So I want to thank you for joining us, and I'm going to hand it over now to Noam Ebner, who's going to facilitate the next panel. Thank you.
So thank you, Leah, and I'd like to thank the other members of the Cyberweek organizing team, Ethan Katsh and Colin Rule and Dan Rainey. So just to frame this session, this opening session, we have a large panel of 8 presenters. We're going to present an array of ideas, of projects, updates. This is not by any means a snapshot of ODR 2024. It's more a sampler of what's going on and what people are thinking. And I say people, some of our speakers are those who are developing ODR systems. Some are involved in projects at the national level, at the international level. Some are involved in policymaking at those levels. Some have been involved in ODR from the get-go and can bring that perspective to the field's ongoing development, where we've come from and where we're going. It's my great pleasure to moderate this panel, lightly moderate, lightly facilitate. I'm really as eager as all of you just to learn what's going on. We won't do any of these ideas or projects justice in this session. Again, with 8 speakers, each of them can only speak for a few minutes. But of course, it won't end there. Some of the ideas presented in this session will be developed later on through the week during Cyber Week. And some of them hopefully will stimulate and enthuse you in the audience, listeners, and you'll get involved and help develop these ideas and projects into things that will be presented at future Cyber Weeks. We have the chat open. Please use it for ongoing comments and questions and to respond to each other's comments and questions. Depending how the session goes and how time goes, toward the end of the session, we might raise a couple of questions from the chat, or I might raise a couple of thematic issues for conversation between the panelists. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how the best way is to utilize whatever time we have and the powerhouse panel we've got there. I've asked each member of the panel to introduce themselves, because otherwise, if I would introduce them, trying to give them any of the credit they deserve, it would just double the speaking time, and we just don't have that time. So if everyone could introduce yourself at the beginning, you can dedicate as much time as you like. But to kick us all, I'm sure that you'll all indulge me. Leah has already said that Ethan Katsh would be opening up the panel. I won't go to introduce Ethan because that could take the hour. But I will say that I think that we all know that if Ethan hadn't done what he's done, then we'd all be spending our day very, very differently, and none of us would be here. So with that having been said, over to you, Ethan. This is, we've been doing this for around 27 years. Where are we at?
I've done this for 27 years. Just to talk very briefly, 4 minutes worth of what we learned in 27 years. One thing I learned is that the best decision I ever made was to include Leah in our activities early on. And I haven't wavered in that thought in 27 years. So thank you, Leah. What have we learned in 27 years? In some respects, we haven't learned anything new at least. By that I mean the issues that motivated me 27 years ago are still there, but they're there at a different level of complexity, different level of speed, different level of scale. But what I mean by they're still there is conflict is still there. And conflict is there. I was motivated in part by a line I've used many times from getting to yes. Conflict is a growth industry. It's even more of a growth industry today. So I would say what I have learned is that ODR is more needed than it has ever been. AI is, if nothing else, going to generate huge numbers of disputes of varying kinds. And we're not necessarily paying attention to how to anticipate those kinds of disputes. So this is the richest Cyberweek agenda we've ever had, and I look forward to hearing as much as possible from all of you. And I'm pleased to see people who I haven't seen in a year or even pre-COVID, which is the other way of measuring life around here. Or, well, I won't get into that. Anyway, Noam, I haven't been keeping track except mentally, so I think I've probably used up 4 minutes at least.
Well, Ethan, I think everyone in the crowd would forgive you any amount of time you took, but let's call that an interim ending spot for now. Thank you. And let's move on to Morenike.
Thank you, Noam. And thank you, Ethan, for starting us off. I think for me, the emergence of ODR in Africa was like a trend. And then when I started talking about ODR in Africa, people looked at me and thought I was from outer space. But I think COVID was the magic word. And so ODR in Africa now is more of a transformative shift, and it's already delivering very tangible results. Yes, they might not seem in the AI space, but things, for instance, even the government is embracing ODR as a practical step for solutions to bridge the gap in traditional justice systems, which is very good, particularly because of course, the usual stories, the infrastructural deficiencies and the problems in the developing world. It's always about the problems. But I see the FCCPC platform, which is a government-driven in ODR initiative, and Scriba, which is a Nigerian transcription, homegrown transcription service. And both of these apps have done tremendously well, because in line with the FCCPC's, and FCCPC, sorry, is the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Agency, the national agency for Nigeria to protect consumer rights. And part of it is to provide redress and facilitate resolution mechanisms, part of their mandate for consumer complaints. And so they had this beautiful platform, which was able to not only take complaints, but parties and consumers could actually time and get real-time updates on those complaints. And of course, the resolutions were streamlined. And you would not believe that prior to that, they received about 700 to 1,000 complaints in a year. But after that, in the first quarter, they received 1,000 complaints in a week, and the resolution rates were high. And so even the consumers were very excited about that. And of course, Scriba is a Nigerian transcription platform. Is another way technology has enhanced productivity on the continent, and is designed and trained, of course, to use AI. And maybe for me, I think the add-on for Scriba is probably being trained by the African tonation. I think that helps because it gives culture, really. So for me, it just makes ODR in Africa, stories like this just gives me real comfort. And of course, it tells me that there's limitless potential for AI and technology-driven solutions, of course, to transform the justice system. And of course, people still complain about infrastructural development, inclusivity, but then it's no longer that ODR is a trend, it's a reality. And of course, through collaborations and investment opportunities in digital solutions, the continent can go to such great heights. And I'm looking forward to that. So I must thank all of you who were the forerunners in all of this, because it's such a great opportunity to be able to use technology in this transformative way on the continent. Thank you.
And thank you, Morenike.
I do good.
You've reminded me of how Cyberweek is so often the most hopeful and optimistic time of my year, right off the bat. Excellent. Chittu, it's good to see you. Would you like to introduce yourself and what are you seeing?
Yeah, hi everyone. Great to be here. I'm Chittu. I'm from Chennai, India. I must first say thank you, Ethan. Thank you, Colin. Thank you, NCTDR, for giving the field of online dispute resolution. I'm, where I am today. It's because of you all, and I owe you all a lot. It's because of you all that, so many friends are over here. It's so nice to see that people from all over the world are over here. That's given me an opportunity not just to, to know you, the culture, but also to travel all around the world. Having all of these forums and teaching us so much more. So thank you. So now, I think we have about, 4 minutes over here and, a couple of thoughts on online dispute resolution. I've been dabbling with this for over 20 years. In mostly, I think in the implementation side, having about 4 companies in the field of online dispute resolution and grappling with, how do we use technology in the dispute resolution space. And as Ethan mentioned when he started, when I look back, where are we now? Have we really moved forward? Have we done a lot? I don't think so. Because, the conflicts just are rising and rising and rising. And there are so many different areas where I think we have actually not solved, where, we could have done better, where, technology could have really helped. I think the first few years for the ODR movement itself was making the case that technology can really help. And, the next after, COVID, that's when, people started realizing it. I think, the momentum started happening at that time. And then, you're speaking all of the world. You don't have to explain what online dispute resolution is. And, suddenly it is like, yes, ODR, ODR, ODR. So great example of, where this momentum really took off is India. And India is one of the forerunners in the field of online dispute resolution currently because of the ecosystem which they have created with the judiciary, with the government, as well as all the different stakeholders. You have umpteen number of ODR startups. You have ODR happening in the securities industry. You have ODR happening in, the financial sector. You have ODR happening in the digital sector. So lots of things are happening in India. We also have a national policy on online dispute resolution in India. So, India took a leap. And I think, we have embraced it. We want to do much more in India. But there's so much more to be done for the field. I know AI has come in. My worry is it all about AI? Are we forgetting technology? Are we forgetting that, in many areas still across the globe, this technology is not available? access to justice, where innovation was supposed to happen in the field of online dispute resolution? Are we actually looking at that, where this is supposed to make the largest impact? Have we done that? And what is it that we can do? The youngsters who are coming in right now, we want them to take over. We want that movement to start, where they will be able to help us more in all of these disputes which are coming in. Or let us not even say dispute, but make it a part and parcel of their lives, where issues can be resolved. And at this time and moment where we have conflicts, where we have the climate issue, all across many issues, how do we make an impact using technology and using ODR for this transformation? So I think that's something which we can think about, and there's a lot to look forward to.
Thank you, Chittu. I love how you introduced, how you gave your talk on everything that's going on across this enormous subcontinent, but you prefaced that by saying that you've dabbled in ODR for 20 years after only having like 4 companies. And so I'd like to move on to someone who's also dabbled in ODR for a while. Colin, you've been dabbling.
I'm just following Chittu's dabbling. Whatever Chittu does, I'm in. I'm in on.
Go.
Yeah. So thank you, Noam. I wasn't expecting to be asked to deliver opening remarks, but I'm happy for the opportunity. As Chittu said, it's enormously gratifying to see ODR on people's lips around the world. I recall it was an ADR Cyberweek in the late 90s where we coined the term ODR. I remember Ethan and I were part of that discussion. And now to be able to go to other countries and have people say, well, we have a national ODR strategy for Malaysia, or we have, it's like, wow, okay, this concept has really got legs. I do think that we've had waves of ODR innovation. And looking back, I can see how those waves have sort of peaked and crashed. In the 2000s, we had a bunch of companies that arose. There were something like 25 companies, and we had a couple different conferences. We talked about creating a coalition of ODR providers, and a lot of those companies died. And I think we can see sort of how a certain generation of ODR companies die, and then out of the bones come green shoots, and then new companies emerge, and then we have another wave and another wave. I feel like we've gone through a wave of ODR innovation, and Chittu and I have been talking lately about ODR 2.0, particularly in the court context in the United States. I think a lot of courts sort of soured on ODR as some of the initial promise that came up in 2015, 2016, 2017. It didn't realize all the advantages that we thought that it might. But now I think with AI and post-pandemic, I think there's another surge of enthusiasm around ODR. So I kind of feel like there are waves coming into the shore, and we're all on surfboards out there saying, okay, is this the one? Do we need to start paddling? We need to get up to speed so we can catch this wave. But, I think in my first book, ODR for Business, I said there's a certain tidal inevitability to the rise of ODR. And I think that that's really happened over the last 20 years. And our toolbox keeps getting richer and richer with all these amazing new capabilities. So I think it's time for us to double down. Obviously, AI has been a hot topic over the past few years, and now I see startups, ODR startups. I just had a conversation with one just this morning that is using artificial intelligence to create workplace ODR. And I had a call with the CEO, and he'd never heard of NCTDR. He'd never heard of ODR.info, never heard of ADR Cyberweek, never heard of the ODR forums. And I told him about it. He was so excited, So we have new people that are coming into the field enthusiastic about the promise and the potential, and that re-energizes me. And to be teaching classes and see new trainees come in and they say, well, this is amazing. We can build digital mediators and arbitrators. I go, yeah, we've been talking about that for some time. So come on in, the water's warm. So I feel like another wave is starting to build. And that's my sense of where we are globally. And I think this ADR Cyber Week, especially, this is probably the most international ADR Cyber Week we've ever had in terms of the multilingual sessions. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Leah, Noam, Dan, for putting this together. So I'm feeling very optimistic and excited about where 2025 is going to lead us. So why don't I leave it there? Thank you, Noam.
Thanks, Colin. And I've often wondered about that, about the we gather, we work, we discuss, and then there's this whole world of activity doing things that are essentially ODR by people and companies that have never heard of ODR, of the center. Perhaps and the language they use is not the language of dispute resolution or mediation or arbitration. It can be a host of other languages, but there is so much going on around us, far more than we know. Yeah, I'm sure we'll hear some more about that this week. Meanwhile, we'll go on to Esther Vilalta.
Hi. We are in a new wave with this AI. Well, first, thank you. My name is Esther Vilalta, fellow of the National Center of Technology and Dispute Resolution. I'm member also of ODR, a professor at the Open University of Catalonia. I would like to thank, first of all, to all of you, to all the organizers, to Ethan, Leah, Noam, Colin, Daniel, all of you for the opportunity to be again with you and discuss with so many colleagues and friends on ODRs, which is a subject that unites us so much and for so long. During this Cyberweek, what I will try to share with all of you is some insights on the impact of this AI in dispute resolution, and the idea is just to contribute somehow to the public debate about this new wave, as Colin mentioned, because it's a cutting-edge technology that has rapidly become popular and has permeated totally in ODRs. However, this technology touches the waterline of access to justice, which is the guarantee for the protection of procedural and substantive fundamental rights. And so, well, there's many studies that have produced interesting results on the strengths and also the limitations of AI applied to dispute resolution. We know that AI is an incredible tool that can provide a higher level of efficiency in ODRs. AI is helpful in some assessment and prediction tasks as well, and also enables self-independent litigants to obtain useful advice on relevant law and possible outcomes on their dispute. It has as well a few limitations, at least at the state of the art today. It is not yet suited to interpreting abstract subjective concepts, for example, or to consider ethical values that have not yet crystallized into principles, or ADR today cannot perceive the written rules in some that may exist in certain cultural contexts. But in any case, the European AI Act aims to create a framework that will foster AI innovation while ensuring a safe, transparent, reliable, and ethical AI system. I would like to talk about all this regulation and to tackle some important issues on safety and transparency. This regulation will allow us to categorize ODRs accordingly to the risks, distinguishing between traditional ODRs with AI in purely administrative tasks, AI-assisted ODRs with cognitive capabilities, and generative AI in ODRs with decision-making power, including full automation. Just to conclude this small brief intervention, in my view, AI systems and automation may help strongly in areas where conflicts are not impacting fundamental rights and that require quick and effective solutions, such as small claims in consumers, because as we all know, justice delay is justice denied. And yet for conflicts impacting fundamental rights, there is also a need to ensure that decisions are ultimately the result of genuine human cognitive activity. So tomorrow I will be really delighted to share with all of you some thoughts on this at the Spanish Cyberweek edition. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. I look forward to that, and it gives me, and now I have another 24 hours to brush up on my Spanish. And next we go to Pavel. Welcome, Pavel. You'd like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Pavel Loutocky from Czech Republic, Masaryk University. I'm a postdoc here, and I'm focused on IT law and online dispute resolution. And I'm also a fresh new member of NCTDR. Thank you very much again to be part of this and to become a fellow. When we were discussing with Noam what to talk about, what to introduce, only logical step for me was to introduce that we had an international conference here in Brno just on Friday and Saturday with more than 250 participants from all around the world. And we were talking a lot about the aspects connected, of course, to AI. But we had the keynote from Israel, from Tel Aviv, Niva Elkim-Koren. I believe some of you may know her. On the content moderation and basically using the ODR tools on content moderation, because this is one of the core mechanisms introduced by the European Regulation on Digital Services Act. And we have these two articles there, Article 20 and 21, which should somehow offer internal and external mechanisms how to deal with the disputes. But and we will be talking with my colleague later on in another stream following up on this one, that these mechanisms are unfortunately rather general. So this is kind of kickoff on what happened on Friday on our conference. Also, we had many streams on Saturday. And I had the pleasure to chair the stream on e-justice 2.0, where we were talking a lot about, again, surprisingly, AI, but in specific AI Act and the impose on judicial systems, which use some levels of automatization. So we were also dealing with classification and falling in the category of high-risk systems and all the duties of transparency and so on and so forth. So this was really one of the very interesting discussions there, and we look forward to continue with that next years of our conference. So maybe I did a small teaser. If anyone is interested, I will also put the link here in the chat in a moment on the last aspect of connection to the cyberspace conference we have. And it's our ODR track, which we were able, and I'm again very pleasure to synchronize ourselves with the Cyberweek. And we will continue with this ODR track. It will be in America 1:30 p.m. Or different times around the world, because I can see all of you are from different places. But I will put the link here, and you can then also connect from the webpage. You will see, but also as it is part of the program of Cyberweek, all the information are also in the program of Cyberweek. That's basically me. I was somehow trying to introduce myself, our activities, but also what I am very enthusiastic about to discuss, and what hopefully we'll hear more in our special ODR track. And I will be very glad to see you there all. Thank you.
But thank you, Pavel. It's so wonderful to have you as a fellow. It's also so wonderful to be able to connect ODR events going on around the world in real time. It's also beyond a pleasure. I think for some of us, it's just mind-blowing. Like the notion that there is actually more than one ODR event going on around the world at the same time, and at such scale is wonderful. So for those who are interested in continuing and hearing more, I mean, it's on the Cyberweek agenda. You'll find it at the links being put there. There are introductory remarks at 1 p.m., which is 1 p.m. US Eastern time, which is one reason that we will be sure to be finished well ahead of that. And please join that, and we will do our best to weave the information being shared and weave the knowledge and the people, to weave them all together between these two events. Having said that, over to Dan Rainey. Dan.
I've been dealing with issues related to technology and dispute resolution since the 1980s. The first time I ever did any work was with doing a mediation between the Middle East, London, and Washington, D.C., using telephones and fax machines. And one of the things that I have thought about many times over the last couple of years, particularly, is a comment that Colin made some years ago, that it becomes increasingly difficult to distinguish alternative dispute resolution from online dispute resolution because of the nature of technology that we've integrated into our work in dispute resolution. nearly everyone who does this work now uses some kind of technology, and in my mind belongs somewhere in the ODR tent. But I'm going to be a little bit of a downer because I think there are two things we're not thinking about. One is the vulnerability that comes along with reliance upon some of the technology. And I'll just give you a very quick example. Over the last month, a couple of cables that take internet service to Africa were cut by a landslide in a deep trench in the Atlantic Ocean where they are transversing from North America to Africa, which put a good part of Africa in the dark technologically for a period of time. So if we rely completely on the technology and don't think about the possibility that there could be interruptions or there could be ongoing issues created by that technology, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. Again, a very small example is the amount of energy that it takes to deal with AI. And as we integrate AI more and more into the work that we do, we're having an ecological effect and we're having a societal effect, and we should be thinking about those things very directly. But the thing that is closest to my heart is the issue of access to justice. And it has been a mantra of online dispute resolution for years that if you increase the use of technology, you will increase access to justice. And my response to that has always been, maybe, could happen. And I'll tell you that I think it is absolutely true that the use of technology in the courts and in other dispute resolution systems and other ways of dealing with conflict has made it more convenient for people who would have been involved in those things anyway to be involved in them. So if I'm the kind of person who was going to go to court, it is now easier for me to do that. If I was the kind of person who's going to go to mediation, it's easier for me to do that. What we haven't done a good job of as a group, as a movement, is to say to the people who would not have been involved in the justice system at all, writ large, not just the courts, but other kinds of access to justice. Hey, there's this opportunity. You can come in. It's safe. It will save you money if that's one of the worries that you have. It's available to you. And I think one of the disservices that we do is we think so much about the technology and so much about applying that technology to systems that we forget that there are human beings out there who have to know about and trust and want to use it in order for access to justice to really expand beyond those people who would already access justice in one way or another. And so that's my take. And my challenge to my colleagues is, let's think about the vulnerabilities and let's think about getting those people into the justice system and into other forms of dispute resolution who might not know that the possibilities are even there unless we approach them.
Yeah, and on that connection between vulnerabilities and trust, it's been on my mind. This did not happen, but it's been on my mind how for all our advancements, let's say in the court arena, we were just one lawsuit about election machines going the wrong way, to leading to wide swaths of society losing faith in technology with connection to court in the vaguest sense, but that would have been such a kick in the trust that could certainly have ramifications for ODR and trust in ODR. So vulnerabilities are physical and but they're also in the trust level and all sorts of levels, and we have lots of work to do there. But maybe instead of saying that, what I should have said is thank you, Dan. Leah, you're next.
Thank you. Wow, so many incredibly interesting and important comments made already, and we're only half an hour into Cyberweek, so I hope you'll continue to join us for the rest of the 5 days. I am struck by both how much is accomplished and how much we can see is still needed to be accomplished. I should introduce myself formally. I'm Leah Wing, and I'm the director of the National Center for Technology and Dispute Resolution. For those who are new to that, we will say that it at this point is a misnomer. We have 50 fellows from around the world for the last 20 years and have been in existence since the late 90s when the internet went public. And I teach at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst in the United States. And I'm also on the board of the International Council for Online Dispute Resolution. I'm about to speak about that in just a moment as well. But I was thinking about how much work we still have to do, and that says something about the maturity of the subfield or the field, we could say. The fact that we can look backwards and see what's been accomplished, what are the patterns, about what's still needed, and we can also begin to see an agenda as we move forward. And there are themes throughout which have been mentioned already, such as access to justice. And for me, it's beyond merely considering how a particular tool can contribute to that, and more bringing a lens, if that is at the forefront of our mind when we do dispute system design or product development or research, then undoubtedly that will lead to the kind of progress that we're seeking. So in hoping to contribute to that conversation, I'd like to highlight some of the resources, almost all of them, which are free, that are already available in the field, and especially for people who might be new to the center and to the field, to get a sense of other ways you can get involved as well. So I'm going to just take a couple minutes to do that. So the National Center has an annual forum, and our next one will be this coming April. I know it's ironic, but we do love to meet in person as well. And it will be held in London, April 29th and 30th, and there will be an option to join virtually if you cannot be there in person. And we also have this ODR Cyberweek. It's usually every November, but sometimes it slips into December. And we have both the conferences and the webinars in an archive. All of this is available for free, except for the forum. And thanks to the hard work of Noam in putting together once or twice a year new contributions to the bibliography, we have a 76-page bibliography that's available on the website. And if any of you have published academic articles or books and are not listed, please be in touch with either Noam or myself, and we can make sure that your publications get in the next version. We hope that that is a rich contribution for people who are interested both academically and theoretically. But also I will say that we have a list of the academic programs, courses, and trainings. And again, if you offer one or you know of a program that's not listed, then please let us know. Dan was just talking now about how it seems as though every form of technology, every form of dispute resolution is in some way engaging some version of technology. And we have a publication that's listed on the research and publication pages called ODR Framework, and it gives an overview of a way of thinking about ODR and your practice or your teaching regarding it, regarding the application of technology at any stage of the process. We also have an ODR Ethics, Principles, and Standards archive, excuse me, and we have a brand new ODR self-certification and ODR endorsement info that's placed on that website. We're highly encouraging anyone who agrees to the support the ODR ethical principles that the National Center and ICODR have published to either self-certify their own practice or to at least include an endorsement. And I'll point to these in just a moment. And we also have a provider list. So if you are an ODR provider and you're not on the list, this is a place where people can find you. And so please let us know. The International Council for Online Dispute Resolution was birthed by the Center for two purposes: to serve as a membership organization for the field, and also as a standard-setting organization. And members, this does cost, but members get access to the International Journal for Online Dispute Resolution. And Dan is going to be speaking about the relaunch of the journal at a presentation later this week. If you're interested in publishing or learning more about the journal, please join us for that. We also have monthly meetings with innovators, new ODR providers, people who are doing tech demos, practitioners, and academics. We also have a podcast that's free to the public. And we have the ODR ethical standards listed in 10 different languages, and a series of one-pagers that we produced when COVID first hit, providing minimal guidance, but hopefully some useful guidance. So here are the ODR standards. Each one of them is one or two paragraphs that are grounded specifically in how technology should be handled in the context of court or alternative dispute resolution. And here is the ODR standards self-certification, where we're asking people to state that they comply The benefits of doing this is that it can increase visibility and trust in your services and for the field in general. It can support the ethical delivery of ODR. And also, on the center's ODR provider list, we are listing at the top those providers that have articulated that they self-certify. And then there's an opportunity for you to consider just saying you endorse the standards and maybe putting this below your email signature on your website, including it in your public talks and through your publications. So with that, I will close, and I'm happy to answer questions online or in the future over email. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Leah. In our final, we still have a few minutes, and I'd like to first of all say aloud what Pavel has written in the chat, that the next session, beginning the ODR track of the cyberspace conference, it's not going to start at 1 p.m. US time, Eastern time. It's going to start at 1:30. And so I've changed that in the Cyberweek agenda, but just so everyone here also gets the word, if you have any way to spread it, spread the word. So that I'd like to open the floor now. If anyone else, I mean, we had 8 speakers here, and it is a powerhouse of a panel. But there are so many other viewpoints and so many other experiences with ODR. And I think everyone on the panel would be happy to hear if there's someone who would also like to take a minute to say, you know, what their viewpoint on ODR 2024, where are we now? Where have we come from? Where is it going? Depending on how you want to frame that. Please just go ahead and jump in. Take that minute. I wonder if everyone is now feeling, oh, Noam put us on the spot. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Did want to be open and democratic about this. Anyone?
I'll offer a couple things.
Hi, Jim. Please.
Hey, let's not forget about the pandemic. I mean, it just forced everybody online, professionals and the marketplace alike, and just a unique event that may have expedited the development of ODR by decades. Potentially, it's hard to know at this point. Second thing is AI is everywhere, and for good, for bad, it's just everywhere. And there's a real challenge for us to, I think, figure out, what do we automate? How much AI, how much human touch, and what are going to be the optimizing recipes for that, which are going to depend on the context, of the disputes and the types of disputes. But we're clearly making huge strides for reasons of access, convenience, affordability, efficiency. We own the future. We just do. And I'm so thrilled to be involved with a group that is so thoughtful about it and really trying to set the proper standards. I'm particularly interested in standards relative to AI and transparency and the like. Final comment from me, I'm just realizing more every day that it's not like we're going to be introducing AI to the clients. They're already going to have fully engaged AI on their own, and each of them bringing their respective AI perspectives to the conflict. And so we're somehow going to have to be so knowledgeable and thoughtful about all these things as to weave together their existing perspectives and maybe some new ones and cast our mediation magic, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just thrilled. What a wonderful thing, our ability to really bring thoughtful dispute resolution to people, if at all possible, to resolve it on their own. And if not, to at least hopefully give them a nice face-saving rationale to move on.
Thanks, Jim. And I'd like to did someone else want to share some comments? I think I saw a hand.
So this is Linda Seeley.
Linda, yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Linda Seeley. I'm the former director of the section of dispute resolution for the ABA. I am now in Tennessee and I serve on the Access to Justice Committee and on the ADR Commission for the state of Tennessee. And we started really looking at trying to find ways to bring ODR into the Access to Justice arena. And so we started a pre-suit mediation program for medical debt. And what we've found is that pre-suit, people are willing to jump in and to try to negotiate out. It's when you actually file the lawsuit that people tend to kind of back off. They don't want to get involved. They are scared of the court system. But if you can introduce them to this idea before they actually get sued, that the participation rate in mediation went up by like 15%. So we were very pleased to see that. We've been working to try to get a number of other hospitals in the state of Tennessee involved in this pre-suit mediation program. We use an asynchronous text-based only platform. And they can bring in mediators, but they don't have to. But the hospital's been very pleased. And also we feel like the general public has been well served by this program. So I'm really excited to hear about new and different ideas for ODR in the Access to Justice arena.
Thanks, Linda. And that really does connect to what Dan spoke before about people who just wouldn't have been involved in justice at all. They would have either lumped it or stayed out of it. But here's a way to bring them in. And it also ties into something that Ethan has been speaking about for years, which is the notion of conflict anticipation and prevention. We know that these things happen. We know that a certain amount of people stay out of the game. How can we identify them and then bring them in different ways? And it really is fascinating to think about what AI's role in this could be. If up till now we'd have certain tools that would allow us to analyze patterns in conflicts and to say, oh, they all relate to a certain section of the law, or they all relate to a certain department in a hospital. Way back in the beginning of the lawsuit, the AI's power to do things like that is, I won't say infinite, but maybe as close to infinite as we can come. Let me end with a couple of comments. One is to remind once again that the next session will begin at 1:30 p.m. Eastern US time. This will kick off the ODR track of the cyberspace conference. And it will be at 1:30 and not at 1 o'clock as appeared originally on the agenda. That's number one. Number two, what do we have coming up this week in Cyberweek? So I can share a couple of my own favorite sessions, scanning the agenda, and I'm not taking favorites here. But first of all, my absolute favorite session is, as always, the social hour. And this time we have two of them on the agenda, which is where anyone who's interested gets together for informal conversations. It's the best we can do in this online conference as opposed to meeting over coffee in our face-to-face conferences. For anybody who's new to this field or just starting to make their way in, please come and join us. There's one on Tuesday afternoon I think at 3 o'clock US Eastern, and then Thursday at 4 p.m. US Eastern time. And this is the best way to directly meet many people in the ODR field, perhaps people you've read their articles or you've heard of them. You had a question for them. You just wanted to get to know them. People generally show up to these, and I hope that we'll see a lot of new faces. Another session that I'm excited about I'm a little biased, okay, because I'll be hosting Orly Lobo of the University of San Diego on Thursday afternoon. Orly Lobo, some of you know her because she spoke at the ABA's dispute resolution conference this past year. And she thinks in a more broad sense about using technology for social good to alleviate inequality and just other forms of evil in the world. And I think that one way of looking at the work that we do in ODR, we're very focused on disputes, even writ broadly. But generally speaking, our work falls into the broader category of using technology for good. And I wonder what we might get out of thinking more broadly about the work we do, what we might learn from other fields who are using tech for good and bringing it into our own arena of dispute resolution. Other highlights, Leah, would you like to share some thoughts or highlights? What's coming up?
Totally. So first of all, I do want to thank again, as has already been mentioned, the planning committee, which is Noam, Dan, Ethan, and Colin, for the preparation. And also, we do have a rich number of panels that are in Chinese, are in Portuguese, and are in Spanish. Thank you, Esther, who's on the call. So I want to thank the organizers of all those panels, and also say that this is a rich opportunity to find out what's going on over the world. The panels in Portuguese are in view mode because they've been pre-recorded, but it's an opportunity to find out about ODR in different Portuguese-speaking countries where that's a lead language around the world. There's also just as an example, there's a student presentation on Thursday. And so if you want to come and show support and learn about some of the new ideas that young people, or at least students, I'm sure they're not all young, have undertaken. There's a presentation on the ability, the ethical issues and the practical issues of integrating AI into arbitration. Colin, let me pass the baton to you because I know you're going to do a couple presentations, and there's just a lot this week. It's rich, and I hope that you'll join us when you have the ability.
Yeah, that's the thing about Cyberweek. It's like my hands are spilling with jewels, you know. How much time can I carve out? I did put in the chat a note about, many of us remember the Pew Charitable Trust committed to invest $250 million in promoting access to justice through technology, and ODR was a big piece of that. Well, none of that money came to ODR providers or like us, or like ODR.com, but it went to researchers. And Jen Shack and RSI was part of the team with UC Davis, and they did some amazing research looking at the existing ODR platforms. And so we're gonna have a conversation with Jen. This is just one of the papers that she did evaluating a family ODR platform within a court. She's got a bunch of other things that she's done looking at quality in ODR. But I think we in the ODR field need to hear some of the takeaways from this research. So if you're free on Thursday, please join. But also, take a look at Jen's bio and read some of the reports that she's written about how ODR can be made more effective. But I'm looking forward to the social events. And we also have a couple demos of new platforms that we're going to be launching on Thursday. So stay tuned for that, and you can see some of the latest and greatest. So it's going to be a great week, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of your faces over the next few days.
Excellent. Thank you, Colin. And with that, I think we're done. I want to thank this panel for coming together and opening the week and sharing their thoughts with us. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to all of you who joined us. And I am so excited for Cyber Week. 'Tis the most wonderful time of the year for me. I hope it is for you too. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. I look forward to meeting those of you who I don't know. Happy Cyber Week, everyone.